As the dust settled on another thumping for Manchester United away at City, in the sprawling Etihad press room, Erik ten Hag unconvincingly explained why he did not maximise a Portuguese-speaking 5-times Champions League winner out of big respect for his career. Ten Hag was speaking about Cristiano Ronaldo but might as well have referred to Casemiro. The Brazilian had not yet lined up in the Premier League, and the ramifications of his slow integration crystallized at the Etihad. United were 4-0 down at the interval and trailed 6-1 going into the final 10 minutes. Casemiro emerged on the hour to plug the gaps, but City scored 2 more. "They were better than us in that game," Casemiro concedes. "They deserved to beat us, but when you talk about a 6-3 in the context of a league, it's still 3 more points that you get." Of course, in the end, your morale drops and it's boosted when you score 6 in victory, but it's 3 points like any other game. So, it was another 3 points. We beat them at home, too. Casemiro started in the Old Trafford derby in January. One of the most enduring images is of Casemiro enveloping 2 young supporters as he wildly celebrated Marcus Rashford's winner. A euphoric supporter tugged at Casemiro's shirt, so he received a bear hug, too. Though City stewed over Bruno Fernandes' contentious equaliser, United were villier than their naive approach in the reverse fixture, and Casemiro's inclusion was key. It is a reflection of Casemiro's cachet he has been elected by the United media staff to conduct an interview on the eve of the first All-Manchester FA Cup final. Unlike in the season's first derby, Casemiro is certain of starting this one. "We know that we have to play very well because they will give us a good game," Casemiro says. "They play very good football, have a great manager, great players, but every game is a different story, a different film, as we like to say. We know there are so many things that happen in every game, and we know that this one will be completely different to the others. We aren't thinking about City. We're thinking that we have the final and we know it's very important for us. Of course, we know that City can have a great season by achieving something big, but we're not thinking about City, we're only thinking about ourselves, about winning that game." Casemiro is uninterested in the treble narrative. "City deserve credit for what they've done and they have our complete respect, but we have this game and we want to win it. And we know it's going to be a very difficult game, but we're not thinking about City's treble. We're thinking about winning another trophy for ourselves. I don't think football players think about fans' tribalism so much. Instead, you're excited about playing in a final and you want to win it. Since I was unveiled at the stadium on my first day, the fans have been incredible with me. I feel their love towards me, and what I try to do is show this on the pitch, by giving my all, my soul, in every game, whether I play for 5 or 90 minutes. Because that's also my philosophy when it comes to working, how I play the game. I give everything on the pitch and I am truly grateful for their help." The only final Casemiro has collected a silver medal in was the European Super Cup in 2018. The Warhorses' last hurrah for Madrid was a stoic performance in the Champions League final against Liverpool, and he bowed out officially by hoisting the Super Cup again in Helsinki. Casemiro was the man of the match. It's true that when you've played in so many finals and you've played lots of games and you're 31 years old like I am and you have that experience, of course you try to pass on that experience, to instill calm. It's a very important game, but we also know that it's one you should enjoy. It's a final to enjoy. But together with my teammates, I think we can share that experience. We've got David, De Gea, Bruno, Rafa, Varane, also who has won countless titles throughout his career. We try to pass on that experience, given our age and the fact that we've played in lots of finals. But, of course, I feel it's another very important final for us. 3 weeks on from the shellacking at City in October, United were losing again on the road at Chelsea. A 5-times Champions League winner rose imperiously to connect with Luke Shaw's outswinger to secure a point. It was Casemiro, not Ronaldo. That signaled the changing of the guard. Ronaldo was absent, dropped from the squad following his tantrum at warming the bench in the midweek win against Tottenham. Casemiro's aura radiated while Ronaldo's diminished in his final fraught days at the club. It is Casemiro whose goals chiseled another year onto the honours board and have added Champions League evenings to the calendar next season. In retrospect, convincing Casemiro to swap Castilla for Castlefield was a coup. Casemiro reassured the United football director John Murtough he would fix it after the generational nadir at Brentford back in August. 9 days later, Casemiro was mobbed by supporters as he was escorted into Old Trafford. Figures at United were in awe of Casemiro during their FaceTime conversations when he declared he wanted to know 3 things. Where would he live? Where would he train, and where would he play? Even Roy Keane seemed in thrall of Casemiro as they shook hands pitchside at Old Trafford. No second thoughts at all, Casemiro says of his £70 million transfer in August. I was speaking to my agent and with John, too, about this afterwards. I'd said this after it had happened because I was also very excited and I was aware that my period at Real Madrid had come to an end and I was really upbeat about coming here and taking on this new project, this new challenge. It was clear in my mind. I knew that it wouldn't be an easy challenge because it was a tough defeat to take for us, but it was the excitement of coming here and making a change. We knew that there was still a long way to go in the season, and that we wanted to win trophies. But we knew that it was a project in which you wouldn't start winning things overnight. There would be a lot of work to do, but it wasn't just me. It was together with the staff and my teammates. My teammates also deserve a lot of credit for this, as do all of the Manchester United staff, in turning the season around when you look at how we started in relation to how we finished. It wasn't just me because ultimately, it's impossible for a single player to change performances, but as a squad you can. Casemiro's modesty is typical of a midfielder who was the sentry at the Bernabeu across 7 garlanded years. That storied spell sparked suspicion when it eventually emerged in late August that United's interest was concrete. The club had a horrendous hit rate of recruiting marquee names on staggering salaries and lacking emotional investment. The pace of La Liga is sedate and Casemiro was already in his 30s. Yet United urgently needed a defensive midfielder and Casemiro was the best in class. On his first Premier League start at Goodison Park, he was dispossessed and Alex Iwobi scored to put Everton in front. Before the first half had ended, Casemiro had dispossessed Iwobi to play in Ronaldo for the winning goal. Casemiro did not find the adjustment onerous. Totally the opposite really. I think the key thing for a player is just that, to adapt quickly. Of course, it's different here. The game is more open and there are lots more transitions here. In Spain there's much more of the tiki-taka that people talk about. When people talk about central defensive midfielders, they forget that you need to help your teammates, you need to defend, to slot in between the center backs, cover any gaps that the full backs or midfielders leave. These are the basic principles for a central defensive midfielder. Of course, beyond that, people want you to score goals, to pass the ball, to get the team playing because footballs change. In the past it would be the number 10 that would be required to do that. I saw an interview with Juan Roman Riquelme once talking about central defensive midfielders and specifically, Sergio Busquets. He said that often the team didn't play well because the central holding midfielder hadn't played well, and people forget that throughout the history of football. It was the number 10 who was the playmaker. The central defensive midfielder was always someone that helped the center backs, helped in the midfield, helped the full backs, filled in and stopped counter-attacks. I think football has changed. The way that central defensive midfielders have had to adapt has changed a lot. Casemiro speaks joyfully about living in England with his wife, Anna Mariana, and 2 children, Sarah and Caio. Both were mascots for United's 4-1 win over Chelsea last week. Ten Hag has overseen a Latino rebranding of United. Lisandro Martinez and Antony were the 2 other South American arrivals in the summer, and Casemiro had the benefit of entering a dressing room with Portuguese speakers in all corners. Casemiro's space in the Old Trafford dressing room is next to his Brazil teammate Fred. The support of Fernandes, the de facto captain, has been invaluable. Fernandes and Casemiro naturally gravitated towards each other as fellow Portuguese speakers, and both are driven and demanding. That was apparent at the conclusion of the League Cup final. While almost everyone with a United affinity in the stadium celebrated silverware for the first time in nearly 6 years, Casemiro collared Fernandes over a wasted pass. He did likewise again after the final whistle of United's narrow defeat of Aston Villa in April, peaked by Fernandes' carelessness. They hugged it out. We could spend all day talking about how good Bruno is because he is a fantastic player, Casemiro beams. But to be honest, and I say this to him, I expect a great deal from him. Because in my eyes, he's one of the most important players in the team. So, when he misses a chance, when one of his passes goes astray, we always want him to do everything perfectly, but these are normal conversations. I've never had an argument with Bruno, the opposite in fact. I just always demand a lot from him, and he demands a lot from me too. Behind the scenes too, sometimes we'll say to each other, you could have scored, you could have done better here, because you've got the quality to do it. And when I speak about Bruno, I have great affection for him because he's a player that helped me from the beginning in terms of the language, and he's a fantastic player, an incredible player. Someone who brings a great deal to the team. It's a pleasure to play alongside him because in the end he's the driving force of the team, the one that helps us the most. The team's engine, if you like. When I arrived here, and it was down to the language, I was fortunate that Bruno would always help me a great deal. He was always brilliant with me. He taught me lots about the club, what it means, and when you get to know a player and you have that close relationship, which is also thanks to the language. We get on really well. And as you get to know him as a player, I can say this with complete confidence. He is one of the most important players at the club, and everyone sees what a great player he is. Casemiro would have been a worthy recipient of the Sir Matt Busby statue that Marcus Rashford claimed, and he will be back in the European competition he belongs next term. Climbing the Premier League ladder and reaching 2 cup finals ensure expectations will be raised next season. Ten Hag wants higher caliber recruits after settling for loanies in January. Cup wins offer only temporary satisfaction. The manager is at the start of his project, Casemiro stresses. The manager has come in, and at the start it's always normal, even though we're talking about one season, but it's still very early to observe. The club have already won a trophy, the Carabao Cup, and we've clinched 3rd place in the Premier League, and now we're in a final. So, I think whenever you talk about long-term projects, which this is, it's normal for it to take time for the manager's mentality, his philosophy to be taken on board, to be implemented. But I believe that now we're more comfortable. In my eyes, the manager has had a great season. The club has had a great season, but of course, we're excited, and it's lovely to playing in a FA Cup final. But I think the difference from then to now is the time that the manager has been here. We understand his philosophy when it comes to working, and that's normal in football. When top-class players come in, quality players, it's always welcome. We always want quality players, and it's always the case that the more options you have. We've got John Murtough, who signed me and brought me here. So I have complete faith in him, along with his staff and the manager who can assist, but it's always the club that have the final say.